Hey, what's up, guys? And just to start things off, this is a new build that I'm putting up on YouTube, so you don't have to worry about it being something random like I've been doing. The reason I don't release builds very often is because I've covered a lot of the different types. They can be tweaked a lot, and I also don't like to put out videos just for the sake of putting out videos. Whenever I use a new build, I want to make sure that I've tested it a lot, that it does what I'm saying that it can do, and that it's actually viable. So this build it's a very balanced build, but before I get to that, I do have to brag about my luck for a second. I was doing Fractals the other day, and I got the torch. I don't use the torch that often, but it looks really cool, especially when paired with the fiery dragon sword. Also got the backpack, not upgraded yet, and also a trident, a fractal trident. So a lot of little fractal things. I'm hoping to get the sword or the great sword soon, though. Anyways, before I jump into the build, some people were asking me about how viable some of my older builds are, and I try to answer your comments or your questions in the comments section as soon as I possibly can. I usually do a pretty good job on that since I don't have a ton of viewers. It's really easy to do generally. Um, but I also have these videos called Nerf or Buff. If you want to, you can check them out. They're on my channel. But basically, I talk about the Mesmer updates, and then I'll try to address any specific skills that were either nerfed or buffed that may have affected a previous build that I posted. Anyways, that's just sort of a general answer to that question, but here's the build. As far as actual gear, it's not... the gear that I'm using is going to be Berserker's gear. It's what I use whenever I'm trying to deal damage. It's pretty much the best gear for dealing damage. Somebody asked me if they could use the armor that I use for my bunker build. Yes, you can. The only problem is this build, the survivability comes from the distribution of your traits as well as your utilities. So I would recommend trying to use Berserkers, and if you're having trouble in dungeons or higher level fractals, then switching out to something with higher vitality or toughness. Knight's gear is a good alternative to Berserkers, but if you find that you're comfortable playing the Mesmer and higher level content and being able to use gear that will let you deal out more damage, then by all means go with Berserker's gear. That's what I tend to do. I use Runes of the Scholar on my Berserker gear, and then all Berserker weapons pretty much. As you can see over here, the distribution of my actual stats is somewhat balanced. My attack isn't ridiculously high. Normally it's about 3,400 with the great sword. Critical chance is about half. My armor's about 2,200, so it's not extremely high, and my health is about in between 16 and 17k. So it's a little bit more on the offensive side, but like I said, this build focuses mostly on the actual traits and being able to survive while dealing out damage. And since it's not a specific build like some of my older builds, like for example the bunker build, you have to use that gear, you have to use most of those traits. This isn't a shatter build, so this is the kind of build that you can use for almost anything. I've used it in World versus World. It's actually one of the better builds to run in World versus World because so many Mesmers use shatter builds that people are starting to counter them almost as easily as 100 Blades warriors. Also, this build is great for taking on condition-based classes like necromancers. Necromancers are really hard to fight as a shatter mesmer, but with this build you have tons of condition removal, protection, regeneration, and you're dealing a good amount of damage, so it's really hard to beat this build in a 1 versus 1 situation. I haven't gotten a chance to test it out on Rangers yet. Rangers give me the most trouble in World versus World, especially ones using full Berserker's armor. They just hit you from super far away, keep out of range, get their pet on you, have tons of access to cripples and bleeds, so they're really annoying to fight. But I'm pretty confident this build would do just fine against them because of the condition removal and the damage paired with the survivability. So anyways, the actual build itself, I have 10 points in Domination, 20 in Dueling, 20 in Chaos, 15 in Inspiration, and 5 in Illusions. Now originally I took out some of the points from Chaos. I only had 15 in Chaos and 10 in Illusions, so I could have the skill where is it? Illusionary Invigoration. Basically, I would use this trait so I could get a double shatter on distortion, so I could remain invincible longer. Basically, it was for countering a shatter mesmers, so I could be invincible for a longer duration. But since I want this build to be more about being able to fight anything and be competitive in World versus World, but also being a really powerful asset in dungeons and in Fractals, I switched the traits around just a little bit. So the first thing I have in Dominations is Empowered Illusions, and that just makes your illusions have 15% more damage. It's really good for the Phantasms like the Berserker, and pretty much any of the Phantasms. I really like the Focus one probably the most because the Phantasmal Warden does so much AoE damage. On some like mobs it'll do up to like 9k in a rotation. If you're fighting a boss and it stays alive, and there are a lot of cases which it can, you can be doing up to 30k if you have 3 of them up, so 30k each time they all attack, so that's really useful. The pistol's nice too for the crowd control, but I typically will go with the Focus. I've been trying to experiment more with the other ones, but the Focus is just so useful in its utility and in its damage. So in World versus World though, if you're gonna go up in a 1v1 and you have the Focus, I would recommend switching to the pistol for the stun and the duelist. Anyways, you can switch. A good substitute for the Empowered Illusions is Crippling Dissipation. I love the Dissipation skills. The reason I love this one so much in particular is because when the clones die, they will cripple foes. If you're fighting a lot of mobs and you're trying to keep your distance with the Greatsword, this is great because the Greatsword's great at getting the clones out there. It's the fastest clone generation weapon in the Mesmer's arsenal, so this keeps your enemies at bay. 20 points into dueling, you get a little bit of condition damage with sharper images, and also critical infusion, which isn't that important to the build. The traits that I've chosen are Phantasmal Fury, so my Phantasms will crit more often, so the damage aspect of this build, and also Deceptive Evasion. Deceptive Evasion is just one of those bread and butter skills. You need it for shatter builds, and it's really useful to have just in general, so you can dodge out of the way, have a clone spawn itself, and then use something like Distortion or any of your shatters. Also, it works really well with Crippling Dissipation because you can dodge roll, and then those clones will typically die if you don't shatter them, and they'll cripple your enemies. I have 20 points into Chaos. But before I talk about the major traits, I want to talk a little bit about the minor ones. Phantasmal Healing and Illusionary Membrane are the two skills that I talked about in my bunker build. So you can kind of see where this mixes my World versus World guide that I posted earlier and my bunker build. Since they did nerf Illusionary Membrane, I felt that it was necessary to not make a build entirely around that skill. My bunker build wasn't built entirely around that skill, but it did. It was a very strong skill in that build. Anyways, having these two minor traits is just huge for giving you extra survivability. You get regeneration and protection, and that also metaphysical rejuvenation also plays into that part of the synergy of the survivability aspect of this build. So as far as the major traits, I chose Deliberating Dissipation for the adept side. Clones apply random condition to nearby foes when they are killed. I just love the dissipation skills. Besides, there are not really other good options if you're focusing more on a damage aspect. You could choose Illusionary Defense if you want to have a little bit more defense by having more illusions up, but I typically like to shatter mine, a habit of being a shatter mesmer. For the second, or for the master line, I have Cleansing Inscriptions, which whenever I activate a signet, it removes the condition. And if you look down here in my utilities, I have two signets right now. And I've been doing a lot of fractals, and you gotta change your utilities almost all the time. For example, whenever I do Jade Maw, I always have the portals, mirror images, and blink. And the reason I do this is so I can set up a portal, you know, at the home base where everyone's keeping the crystals, mirror images is there so I can break a stun or quickly get distortion off in case I'm about to go down or I'm about to get hit by the Jade Maw's one-shot attack. And then blinks just for extra mobility, so you can blink to crystals and then you can set up portals, get your whole team to get just tons of crystals at your home base, so it's really useful. But generally, if I'm doing World vs. World, I'll take the Signet of Domination. Otherwise, I like the Signet of Inspiration coupled with the Signet of Midnight. You get, and here's where the build really comes into play. The power of this trait and the utilities here. The way I have it set up also, if we look down here, the Inspiration really quick, Mender's Purity, my heal will also remove a condition. So I have a condition removal with my heal, and 2 additional condition removals with my signets. And the reason why this is so useful, because you can take Nullfield, and I will, based on what boss that I'm fighting in Fractals. For example, the one that causes tons of burning, I always bring Nullfield and a staff so I can toss down Chaos Storm and Nullfield. But if you're doing a different Fractal where the conditions are bad, but you're spread out, like where you're fighting that giant tree, and there's tons of poisons, having skills that aren't specifically dedicated to condition removal gives you the benefits of the other aspects of them. For example, the Signet of Inspiration. I'm getting random boons every 10 seconds. I can give those boons to my allies, and this is particularly helpful when you cast a Chaos Storm and all of your allies are just avoiding it for some reason because it's purple sparks flying everywhere. But you know better and you stand in it, you get all the boons, and then you can use this Signet to pass on the boons. Additionally, you can use this as a condition removal. Signet of Midnight works really well with Signet of Inspiration because it improves boon duration, but you can also use it as a blind, so that's also useful. This third utility, it really just depends what I'm doing. I go with mirror images a lot for the stun break, also the ability to use it and quickly use distortion, so I use it defensively a lot of the time, but it just depends on the occasion. When you're fighting that level with the Harpies, always go with feedback. Tons of damage and defense, so just depends what you want to do with that third skill. In World vs. World, if I'm not using mirror images for the stun break and I know I'm going to be fighting something like a Mesmer, or sorry, a Necromancer or another class with a high amount of condition damage, I'll go ahead and switch to Arcane Thievery. I send 3 of my conditions to the foe and steal 3 of their boons. This is useful against Guardians and Necromancers. Finally, there are 5 points into Illusionist Celerity. That is necessary in any build. I've said that in every video. I won't stop saying it. You always have to have at least 5 points in illusions. Usually I'll have more, but this is one of the first times in a build where I've just had the 5. Anyways, that covers the traits of the build. But like I said, the reason why this build is so strong is because you have a lot of damage at your disposal, but you also have 2 really good traits for survivability. And it doesn't seem like much, but trust me, when you're going against the different bosses in Fractals and they're just pooping out conditions, having condition removal that's not specifically just for condition removal is so helpful, because you get the additional benefits of the signets, the passive and the active abilities, plus the addition of the condition removal. And then also your heal. If you're poisoned, your heal's less effective. Having this will nullify that and give you the full heal, so that's always really helpful as well. That covers the build then. If you have any questions about it, be sure to ask in the comment section below. I didn't go into specifics too much on the gear. That's really up to you. Like I said, I prefer Berserkers. If you guys are ever looking to do Fractals, just PM me. I'm still on level 27 because I stopped doing it. The girlfriend asked me to take a break from games, and also I was getting a little tired of the grind. Plus, I need more of the Fractal of the Mist Essence stuff. I never get any. I barely had enough to upgrade the backpack to the first stage, or the back piece to the first stage. So I'm hoping to get more of that. I'm using Magic Find everything, but and usually I don't even use Magic Find. So, anyways, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have fun with this build.